Hello, everyone. Waiting for Harini to join us. Let me give her a second. Hi. Hi. Hello. Wow. So many people. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. So wonderful to see you.
Hello, likewise. It's been a minute since we've actually seen each other in person, but it's a good
Yep.
replacement until then.
Yes, for those who may not know, people who do follow me may not follow dance, but Harini is an amazing, of course, brilliant gem of a person, of course. But more importantly, the work that she's doing, well, not more importantly, equally importantly, the work that she's doing in the realm of dance and creation and bringing East and West together and really showcasing different diversities within her practice is just incredible. So, folks who don't follow her, please do. She's fantastic. And we go back a very long way, actually. So, talking about Unashamed, some of the case studies that I've written in the book happened when Harini, I knew you actually at the time. So, let's just begin with why don't you do a little introduction, who you are, what you care about, just in terms of India, if you don't mind.
Okay. Hello, my name is Harini. I go by Harini. I am from India. I was born in Chennai and I grew up there. Then I moved to the States in 2013 with my family. So I have very strong connections and I'm still homesick right now to
Yeah.
dance, to my people, to my country, and I feel
Yeah.
like I carry that with me every single time I'm delving deeper into my practice and movement work. So that is a little bit of me. I can't separate dance from who I am. So that's definitely, I'd say that I'm a dancer from India and I carry those roots with me, and I just love the art of dance as a whole, no matter where it's from. So my
Yeah.
lofty goal is to try every dance style under the sun once. I'm not gonna finish it before I pass, but that's the goal I have.
It's a I love lofty goals. I'm also very ambitious in my goals, and I think especially good ethical goals. This is the time for it to be met. You know,
Yeah.
we need to dream big. Which brings me to the topic of like body and shame and kind of like repression, Harini. So you and I used to talk a lot about this, just in terms of navigating a very repressive culture, not just in India but also in the US,
Everywhere.
and how it can become very difficult to just be yourself because the moment you show up as yourself, you're told about 100 different things you shouldn't do.
Yeah. Um, in performing arts or in arts in general, where we use our bodies kind of like an amplifier of things that we're saying,
Yeah.
you cannot divorce the idea of shame from it, and it doesn't have to be shame as a huge thing that happens to you. It can be little things. It can be something like going into a casting room for a project and going, the height match doesn't work here, and it's a simple sentence, right? The height match doesn't work here. That's not something that can be construed badly, but and as a person who is on the shorter end, you're like, well, I kind of knew that, but I'm hoping you can see past it for something else. Or the other way around too, is like, she's too tall for this, or the height match doesn't work here, way over. And it's like, then you can't control something like that, right? I can't magically change my height.
You.
I wish I had that superpower. Just we can fit anything. Then that's what we have fantasies for. But shame is very prevalent in the sense that there's a mold that everyone is supposed to fit in, and
Yeah.
these are kind of arbitrary and created, one, for efficiency, two, for a lot more nastier things like supremacy, pushing your own ideals and all that stuff. And when you don't fit into XYZ molds, they may not be ground making molds, breaking molds, right? They can be
Right.
something simple like, hey, you're just a little bit darker,
Yeah.
or you're just like, your body type is a little bit more pearish. We're looking for someone who has a triangular body type for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's out of your control.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
shame is very inherent in dance as an industry,
Okay.
and it's not like people actively try to shame, but there are some people who do actively try to shame so they can pick the cream of the crop for to fit their ideals. So that was a very long-winded answer, but it's there. It's there everywhere.
Is there everywhere? And I'm picking up on the thing you said about I so wish, like I so wish I was taller, and I so wish, which is another way of just like trying to fit into the mold. And of course, every craft has its standards. So like that, I'm not someone to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I understand that, but
Yeah.
when it becomes this kind of repression and suppression, and like you have to be only this one way, and only then you can like achieve status, etc. So in a lot of places in my book, Harini, there are people who are speaking about sexual shame coming in the way of sexual liberation.
Yeah.
So the idea of liberation even being so Americanized, right? Like, what does it mean? Like casual sex culture. Okay, casual sex culture, and then, I need to be a certain XYZ free way, only then I'm liberated. And it's like, not every culture in the world needs to aspire to American idea of freedom. Like that doesn't need to be that, right? There are other ways to de-shame oneself and liberate oneself.
Yeah. Right on, honestly, because the idea of liberation shouldn't be like one country's idea of liberation or one culture's idea of liberation. We are different, and that's what works for us. So when you're thinking about sexual shame and liberation from all of that, sexual shame and liberation, what looks like shame for one person may be liberation for another.
Yeah.
What looks like liberation for one person may be way too much and shame for the other, right? It's vice versa. It's so subjective. And it's not a good idea. It's not honest to anyone to police what liberation looks like, so long as they're not human, and so long as they're not doing something, absolutely wrong. Then, hey, someone's idea of liberation could be abstinence. Someone's idea of liberation could be casual sex. Someone's idea of liberation could be, hey, I'm content with one sexual partner. And someone's idea of liberation could be polygamy.
Yeah.
And ethical non-monogamy. Like there's nuances, and not every single person is built the same. Not every single brain works the same or is wired the same. And it's the same with whenever you're putting yourself out there, what looks like liberation for me may not be liberation for the person who's consuming my content. So that's where discourse is born.
Right. Like you're saying, your content could land on someone as shaming if they're looking at it as like a dancer, versus, oh, let me embrace my own body and let me embrace who I am and my own culture and my own language and my own whatever, and become successful in that niche. That makes a lot of sense, Harini. Just a question about like sexual trauma. You and I used to chat about this a lot when we used to know each other in that area of life, that realm of life. How common is it to, it's a complicated question, but how common is it that a dancer has sexual trauma, which is the reason why she or they or he can't actually show up in their full sense? Because dance is so somatic, it's so body based.
I would say it's common enough that that's a factor that plays.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't have the numbers or the statistics to put out like a concrete claim, but I've heard enough stories and I've seen enough people in an industry like this navigate. There's a lot of survivors in this industry, I'll put it that way.
Thank you. Yeah.
And when that is done to you and your body doesn't feel like your own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When your idea of who you are shatters in one way because of an instance that happens to you, showing up and then showing up to be confident in front of the camera, or showing up to be confident in your class, or showing up to be confident even in practice in that area, in that space where it might have taken place, or that your memories are associated with something that happened to you. That is unfortunately a reality that many dancers still face and do face in every community here. And showing up to put on a face of saying I'm overcoming this, when really overcoming something that is hard work, and it's a journey that has ups and downs. It's not a linear path. There are good days, there are horrible days. There are days when you don't want to move. There are days when dance feels like your enemy. There are days when dance feels like your therapy. So it is very common for a dancer who uses like their body as their method of speech and their method of being and living to either use that practice as an escape or escape from that practice itself for a little bit until they're okay to come back again. And it looks different on everyone. But unfortunately, the reality is there are many cases that create more, not create more, lead to more survivors than we wish for. And it's unfortunate, because then people think that because on a dance floor the energies are high, and if you're doing partner work with somebody, that sometimes they bypass nose, they can bypass cues and then try to put their hands on someone, and something harmless like a combo becomes harmful, and then you can't revisit it again. So
And this is where it can't just be like survivors need to heal by themselves. This is where the system has to also help them, and like the dance instructors and just the culture around somatics need to be much more aware, right?
We have a responsibility as a community to be vigilant about this. And it's not like where we can, it's not like a PowerPoint in a corporate office that we can just show you a sexual assault prevention and diversity inclusion quota, it's done. No, it's an everyday task.
Yeah.
You have to be careful because you're working with bodies actively,
right.
And there's so much energy, there's so much effort and time and love, and when you're spending all, like, say, 8 hours of your day moving, talking, sharing your energy, your bodily energy and spiritual energy with another person or with a group of people, right? And that energy gets violated in any ways. It mentally and physically impacts people so much.
Yeah.
So we as dancers in the community need to look past, like, oh, but they're my agency, oh, but they're my supervisor. It's hard. And there are dancers in the public eye who are going through this, like Yanis Marshall. Their fight is so empowering and so incredible to watch. They're a beautiful dancer, and I wish them all the best, because that is the public eye, and it's like a very high level, and it's televised and it's public now. But in cases where you don't have all of those eyes on you, and it's like a simple dance studio on the corner of Elston, right? What do you do? But yeah, you need to take ownership, you need to take responsibility, because it's not just words, it's not just like a 9 to 5 thing that leaves you. You go take the combo home and then you have to work on that and come back again. So,
and the industry expects you to come back again, and you need to show up
to
be there, right? Right. So I've written this book really for survivors and people who ally with survivors, which is literally everyone. If you're dating one, if you are one, if you're somebody's mother, you're somebody, like. And it's so interesting for our Indian American community too. Like, of course, India and America as communities by themselves, but Indian American community, especially as a bicultural community, Harini, there is just so much need for this kind of like work. And I'm glad you're doing in your realm, I'm doing it in my realm, but it's still seen as a little niche. It's still seen as like, okay, on the side. Actually, the mainstream doesn't care about all this. And I want to challenge that and tell folks the mainstream does care about all this. People want better relationships, people want healing. So, to access so I've written it like a workbook, and I've done for any survivors who are listening, or people who may have perpetrated assault who are listening as well, right? There is a way to heal from that, and that is what the four parts of the book are all about, which is why I'm also speaking to you to give like lived experience from your industry, from your field. You also named trauma responses. You also named fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. You named escape, using dance as a way to escape and bypass the pain, which is such an important point. In fact, I should write that down and make that note for myself too. Yes, so important.
Yeah, because like these trauma responses, they don't just go in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes fright is the first thing that happens. This is my own personal experience. Like when it happened to me, I thought that I'm a very strong person and I have all of the resources under the sun. I took Taekwondo as a kid and knew how to defend myself. I'm by no means weak because I'm working on my body. I have strength. And then when it actually happens to you, that strength leaves you and you're just stuck with. I could not move.
Yes.
And after not moving, I found the strength to fight back. And then lucky for me, my parents are very open and talking about everything.
Yeah.
So
Same.
I could hear their voices in my head that led me to get out of it and then confront the person who did this to me right there and then after. But that strength only came to me because it was open in my family to talk about, hey, you're growing up. You're our only daughter. You're
Yes.
growing up. You're our only daughter. You're going to be alone in the country at 7.
Yeah.
This
So
is what you did.
we need to
My
empower.
dad was
Yeah.
very mental. As a man coming to me and telling me, there are people who don't have the best interests and there are bad people in the world. You need to know how to identify them. You need to know what happens to you. And yet, even with all the armaments in the world, when it happened to me, all I could do was freeze, right? And then
Yes.
after
It's not conscious, not a conscious thing. We don't think it. It
your
just
body
happens.
is doing its best to protect you.
Yeah.
That's the thing that was told to me when I was working through, and it's like, hey, it's doing its best. It's doing so well to try to protect you.
That's right.
And it thinks that freezing at that moment would be the best possible response. It may not be mentally, logically, if you look back, you're like, why did I freeze? But at that very moment, all I could do was stand there, take it,
That's right.
and then later on, push that person off and then talk to this person. Like, do you know that I said no like 3 times? But that was the anger.
Yeah.
After freezing, I was angry. Then after that, I just went to have like a lunch date with a friend of mine, and I was recounting the events. She looked at me and put it into perspective. It's like, dude, no, dude, you've been assaulted. So I was still treating it like a one-off thing.
Wow.
And my brain didn't process it. She was the one who I don't know if she wants to be named or anything, but I owe it all to her to help me out at that moment. Also, a person in the performing arts industry who told me about this. And this is like, I was very young. It was 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we met roughly a year after that, I think. And I was working through it. That's what that class was. So, but when things happen in a visible industry like this, right? I'm going to bring it back to dance for a second. I'm very unashamed about the types of dances I do. Like just yesterday, I took a heels class and I felt like the best I've ever felt, while also not getting a style so new. So it felt amazing for me to put my body through all of that.
Wow.
And then,
yeah,
you know, when you're learning something and then you look good and it feels good, and then someone else looks at you and you know that you look good and they think and they validate the fact that you look good and you're attractive. Then comes the slippery slope of, I said you were attractive, wasn't I? And then that gives me permission to do this. That gives me permission to do that. I was in a party when we were dancing, and then just like party dancing. There is nothing sexy. It was dance. And then you get danced into a corner. Me.
My God.
I got danced into a corner. I was like, oh, whoa, hey.
Right.
And then got it. I was like, okay, I can slink off. Luckily, I have the mobility to slink off now. Because I was not going to repeat the freezing again. But I worked towards the fact that I didn't want to freeze, right? Wow. Not many people have that same thing. But then it's, again, your body will react a certain way. And my body, luckily, after years and years of pouring myself into dance, danced itself out of that situation. So I could use it as like, haha, funny. And I left.
Luckily, but also like practice. You
Yeah.
just described some practice and labor that you did to actually change your somatic response and not go to the flight, to choose a different response. My God, that's a lot of
work. That was years of work, I will not lie. And then the first 3 years of me doing that, I hated it. I wanted to cry every single day. I did cry many nights.
Right.
And I was in a bad position. But dance, Bharatanatyam actually, I was researching different ways of karanas to use the body in movement practices. And there were like these karanas that were just not used as often. One, I'll translate it. It's called cat karana, cat movement. Okay. And you bend really low, you kick your leg really high, and then move laterally like a cat would, and then stretch like a cat would. Okay. And then I noticed that my range of motion got bigger. I started extending. And then as a dance nerd, I was like, this is great. I'm using this. And then I can like use my 5 foot even body to fill up a space, right?
Yeah.
Then I realized that if this was helping me move faster. I could leap. I could actually like walk faster. I could walk slower. I could walk with more core strength and more purpose. So dance literally changed my gait.
You are giving us such a gift by saying this, my friend. Like, oh my God, like, I don't think people have an idea of the somatic power of changing that neurobiology, or at least shifting it a little bit, you know. And oh my God, yes, getting into that particular pose, Bharatanatyam, the ancient wisdom of that, and also using it, contemporizing it into today's practical world. Oh my God, yes.
There's a book called Into the Magic Shop, and it talks about how you can rewire your brain. Again, my parents are the reason I am the way I am, because they're very open talking to me like this. My brother too. So if they read something interesting or if they find something interesting, and they're all about mental healing, they're all about actually talk communication. Communication's huge in my family. So, and then I follow this artist, RM from BTS.
Yes.
He has this where he recommends books. So he recommended Into the Magic Shop. My dad recommended Eckhart Tolle. And then he was just like, try these books. And this was like, this has been a constant in my family, that they give me things to read and I give them things to read. We're big bookworms. I love, later on I can show you around my house. But that helped me because I want to apply dance to my everyday life. And I noticed that, you know, it's kind of like that scene from Rocky where he's doing boxing drills and then running up the stairs and he just makes it on top. It's like these drills, it's a muscle group that you're exercising, right? The more you do a certain drill, the better you get at it. Right? And then when the better you get at it, then your body starts adapting and then body starts getting more fine-tuned. And that's what happened to me. I actively did not want to put myself in that freezing position again. And knowing me and knowing my love for dance, like you've seen, I love moving. I can't say
Yes, well, love for dance I've seen, but also I've seen the warrior in you that wants to move out of survivorship, which is not to shame anybody who's in
no.
survivorship optimization, but there is a total other, there's a, people miss this because of social media therapy, but there is a way out of trauma healing also, right? Which is exactly what you're talking about. I mean, there's a way of trauma wounding, out of trauma wounding also, which is the healing part, the light that comes later, the practice, the labor, the effort. Everything is not written in stone that the scar is going to remain the scar. I mean, that's what's really hard about this work, Harini. But also, I'm so grateful for you to actually label your exact journey. Just like taking one moment just to break it down for folks who may not like fully follow, but like one you named after the trauma, having the love of open communication in your family, which is such a privilege, such a great privilege. I mean, this is a good thing, right? This is a great thing. And then after that, actually you moving into your own healing work and then realizing, okay, I was victimized and now I need to move out of victimization in a certain way using what's true to me. So for me, it's visual art. For you, it's dance. For someone else, it could be music. For someone else, it could be poetry. For you, it's dance. And then using that to then move into the third stage, which is now I'm going to continue to communicate with the loved ones. So, you know, in my book, part 3 is all about intergenerational trauma and like talking, bridging gaps, not cancel culture, not of like literally discourse, you know, which then leads to a more strong and just more sorted sense of self that I can say yes and no and I have agency.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I am my family model is more what most people look at me like that's unique and privileged because not everyone's experience, right? My parents, my dad and mom specifically, they love talking about anything that is transpired. Yes, there are fights, like any family, there will be fights. There are blowouts. We have a system in that when it happens, when they fight, we argue, and then I go to dad, and my brother goes to mom, and we'll.
Wonderful.
Like, we've got a system and everything, but even if, say, Arjun, my young one brother, and I have a fight, right? Our parents will break it up, or we'll let it happen. We'll finish saying our piece, and then the cool down time is when you actively talk about why you said those things.
That's so helpful.
But then sometimes that's not nice. Like we can still like bring it back up and everything, but then talk. We're big yappers. We're big yappers. We keep yapping at each other until we resolve it, and then
It's good.
the next day is the next day morning. It's free. That's what happens. So I owe it all to them, to the fact that I have that thing. And I'm not saying that everything was roses and sunshines. And no, there are many things that I don't want to dive into today. It's not relevant to what we're trying to talk to. But my family if they weren't as open and they didn't give me that space to actually call them when things like this happened,
Right.
it broke me to see my dad cry about it. I will say
Right.
that, right? But I can talk to my parents and be like, Appa, this happened to me.
Yeah.
And then he's not going to ask me, what were you wearing?
Yeah.
He's never going to say that.
Yes.
He's not, what were you doing?
Yes.
That's my dad will never say that. And
Yes.
my mother never said that either. Neither did my younger brother. Their only response was, can we help you? We feel sad about it. They were angry about it.
Right. Right.
But
Right. Right.
we also have a family therapist, and then I spoke to her, and then I was just like, I don't know. I've spoken to her about many things. I've spoken to her about feeling weird in my own body, and I was 12 and not feeling very feminine. Then now I'm fine with that. But
Yeah.
then it's
I remember us talking about this too in 2018, actually.
19, yeah. So I am very privileged in the sense that my questions were answered with some thought and they weren't shut down.
Yes.
I can't.
Yes.
So if I didn't have that, no, then I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about my journey. I would not be the same person as I am right now. And I would say that I feel confident in who I am and myself quite a bit now. I did not feel that back then. And 2016 through 2020, my 4 years in undergrad were very formative in the sense that after undergrad, I figured out my likes, dislikes, who I am, how I navigate things, and how what I do will help me figure out who I am and how I navigate things. Right? I know that I had a deep insecurity about how I moved because I didn't have the same training as most dancers.
Right.
I did not have ballet training. I did not have jazz training. I took contemporary, but I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer first and foremost. I've been doing that since I was 4. And while there's overlap, similarities, there's a huge world of differences. We're more grounded, ballet is more aerial. There's extensions and flexibility. I lost my flexibility, not completely, but I had like a little Velcro tear situation in high school, and I've been recovering since. So then there's recovery angle of those injuries that come in. So tying it back, my body has been through so many changes, and I'm only okay with those changes now at 25 years old. I was not okay with those changes when everything happened to me. Mentally, I was fine with who I was and how I was doing, but I used to look at myself in the mirror and wanting to change every part of me. I used to get up after the incident happened and be like, was it my face that made this happen? Was it my body that made this happen?
Wow.
I'm short, so weight shows on me faster. I need to reduce weight. Then I got bones. I was just battling. I was skinny, and my parents were upset, so they called me home. 2 weeks they fed me. I went back, and I was finally healthy, but I didn't see that then. I was just like, I'm back to the body that made things happen to me. I need to change.
Sorry.
So,
Yeah.
But this is where I was mentally and then physically. Then I became okay with how I looked, and then my body started moving faster. My work started showing, then my mobility started showing. I got my athleticism back. I was starting to get more flexible and everything. So then I was just like, oh, I'm at a good spot. I'm at a good spot, not realizing I was just looking at like the shiny good stuff and forgetting that no, I still have issues. And then after like 4-5 sessions, like when I say sessions, these are years. One year is 1 month.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's how we broke it down in our model. Me and my therapist. 4 sessions, 4 years. I was like, okay, I think I'm finally fine with how I look, who I am. I know that I'm short, which means that any kind of weight fluctuation is going to show immediately. Recently, I lost about 5 kgs because of how much rigorous activity I was doing, but I'm still healthy in my weight, right? But now I'm like, well, I need to put on muscles so I can stay in a weight that I am okay with. Because the last thing I want in a competition season is to collapse on stage out of no strength in my body, not because I want to look like someone.
No.
This is purely for me to be like, okay, I can be stronger because I need to have that much strength on stage. So allowing myself to sort of slinky my way into different type of body types
is
and then
huge.
be fine now. And I have my mom to thank for this because she and I have a lot of open conversations about. But she's the first person to come to me like, "Do I look different to you?" I'd be like, "Why do you ask me this? You look fine."
Yeah.
So, it's not necessarily like my parents are blessing me with wisdom each time. Sometimes they ask me questions.
Sure, sure. Which is a healthy family.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I feel so grateful for you to like go into the detail. I wasn't expecting you to do that. Thank you so much. What a gift, because so many people will benefit from the detail, Harini. Specifically the detail, not as a trauma journey, but also coming back to the fact that these are not destiny factors that just remain, like like as if you can never change them. These are changeable, these are doable, but they take work. And to come back to the point of like how is what is hard, right?
Yeah,
But if one just like retreats when it gets hard, one is not going to be actually be like able to flow through the journey, is what you're actually telling us. And you're like describing all the elements of the labor, which is really amazing, and thank you for that.
for sure. No, when you posed the question to me, I was like, I'm more than happy to talk about it because I'm seeing on my For You page, and I'm seeing a lot of girls like when I go to workshops, come and ask me, "How did you get like this? I want to look like you." And that sometimes is a good thing in the sense of, okay, you want to get to my physical athleticism level, but
Right.
then I realized that's not what that.
No, they're asking how's the strength, how are you, what's the internal strength about,
Yeah,
Harini?
sometimes it's like the internet. Sometimes it's literal. It's like, how do I get your body? And then I realized that, okay, want to look like me, then I will. This is my schedule.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Work.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'll train my arms, I'll train, that. All of this is labor. I'm training a part of me as much conditioning every single day because I'm dancing full time. I'm dancing in the day. I'm I'm dancing at a gig here. I go to a gig and I'm dancing there. I'm constantly moving. So I look like this because I'm constantly moving, which means you have to, which means you have to constantly make sleeping. I am now, but there was a time when I was running on 3 hours of sleep. That is not healthy for a person. Don't do that. Listen, do not do that. Whoever
And
sleep.
your voice is breaking a little bit. I think it's the angle now.
Yeah, no, no, no. I was saying, yeah, you need to at least get 5 hours minimum of sleep. Not
Let,
where
let me
I'm at.
let me pause you for a second. You're saying that don't take the survivorship healing in such an extreme way that now you push yourself out
Yeah,
of balance. Don't do any of the two, either of the extremes. One is to not use it, not look at it at all, or the other is to now to kill yourself. I mean, metaphorically, just like push yourself so much that
yeah,
you're like, why do I have trauma? Why do I have trauma? Either of those are not healthy.
yeah. No, everything in moderation, including moderation. But make sure that when you're asking me like, how do I look like you? There's like years of work to look like me. But I will tell you how I got here, and if it works for you, take the parts that work for you.
Right.
Don't take the parts that you don't have to ape me or mimic me because that doesn't make you you. You know what I mean? And another thing is I'll read comments sometimes be like, you've lost weight, you've done this. I was like, yes, I'm aware, but I am tracking that in the sense that is healthy for me because I'm not actively trying to look a certain way to be my marketable.
No.
Sometimes
Such a
overwork.
shame, like concept, the concept of commenting on your body as a viewer and telling you. I don't understand it at all.
My favorite part, Neha, was on Women's Day, and there was this thing called DDN Confessions, Desi Dance Network Confessions. I don't know what possessed me to check it out. I checked it out, and they're like, "Wow, she's much hotter now that she lost so much weight."
Oh God.
I was at my worst. I was not eating, and on Women's Day,
Yeah, yes, no, that much buddhi is not there.
like you have the audacity of bad timing, and then you have the audacity of a bad comment.
My
But no,
God.
I'm no stranger to people looking at me like, "You've lost weight. You've gotten leaner. Are you cutting? You look better now. You used to be much rounder back then." These are
Yeah,
all things that I hear, and
yeah,
they hurt me because I don't particularly care about how I look.
yeah,
They hurt a
yeah, yeah.
lot of people because that hurtful things to say about things you can't change, right?
Right,
So
right.
me personally, for Harini, that's not going to hurt me. But if there was anyone else, can you imagine?
Exactly, exactly.
There are different things that hurt me. Other comments that get to me, I will not get. But
No, and but also it's about like that comment is coming from how that person sees themselves, right? Which is this culture of shame now because of social media, because of everything is critiqued hyper, but the information digestion is very less. It's not like people are learning at like hyper speeds. So that's the interesting part about shame, right? And so if you don't do the work and you think, okay, watching an Instagram live is amazing, folks, that's lovely, but also do the work, like only agreeing or disagreeing doesn't lead to change.
yeah, and also the shame that comes in, cultural shame. We are Indians. We are barefoot like 99% of the time, all the time, and that's normal. Many cultures are barefoot like this. Okay, we are fine with having our feet open out there, but then here they're like, oh,
Not
we'll let the dogs out for
right.
free on this internet. There was a discourse, this is really funny now, where people thought I had 6 toes. So they'd go to each, be like, wow, she does have 6 toes. And then there'll be a comment saying, no, she doesn't.
Oh
And that's like a what word.
God.
It's funny. It's funny now. But I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer. I'm going to be barefoot. I like listening to the beats that my feet are making, and that keeps connected to my art. Aishu, another dancer in on TikTok, right? She is dark skinned and then she also dances barefoot. Whereas my comments are more comical, hers are nasty. They're like,
Hmm.
oh, it looks dirty. Put your dirty feet away.
Wow.
Why are you
Wow.
shaming a dancer for just dancing the way she wants to?
And already in my generation, I'm like flabbergasted about how much time people have to go and like look at toes and comment. I mean, I know your generation is much more about social media. Mine is also, but not to this extent. And sometimes I get really worried. It's like, what are people doing with their time? Like, this is,
See,
you have such a
it
short life.
it is genuinely baffling what people believe on sections or anyone's comment section. I can only speak for myself, but it's just it doesn't matter generationally. I feel like anyone who has access to this internet, they need to not have that much access. Let's
Yeah.
say this. Like maybe put the phone down. Maybe put it down.
Right.
But
Right.
scrolling and then the first thing that comes to your mind is this chick has 6 toes. I need to say something about it. That's a little
That's scary.
fun. What
No, that's
fun
like
on
very disgusting. Yes. Like how far away is that person from their own experience to do that? Which is again about dissociation, trauma responses. Well, I won't take too much of your time. Just as we're wrapping up, is that fine? Would you like to?
we
Would
can
you like
talk
to?
a bit more. I really don't mind because it's a Sunday and I'm blessed to be today. So I love having this conversation. So we can go as long as you feel like you want to.
I just have two questions for you so that you don't feel super burnt out by this because it's a heavy
It
topic.
is.
Um, if you wanted to, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, how weird is it around, accessing like touch in the dance, like, and not just like through shame, but how weird is culture, like how does culture shame touching? And so I'll just go a little bit, like there's the first chapter is about Kusha, who talks about masturbation, and she talks about like how difficult it was for her to really access masturbation for a long time because she was like voyeured when she was a young child, and like there was an uncle staring at her changing her panties. Trigger
Oh
warning, everyone.
God.
Yeah. And so that's that. So I help readers connect the dots to say that just because you can't shame yourself. I'm not having sex. I don't like men, or I don't like women for this reason. Or like I don't like romance for this reason. You have to look at your past.
Yeah.
So in your field, like, does touch come up?
Like touch in the sense of choreography or touch in the sense of good touch, bad touch, or everything.
I would say first choreography, and then yes, good touch, bad touch, which you touched upon a little bit, but like how much does it come up? Like how are dancers even aware like what good touch, bad touch is for them?
Dancers, yeah, they are, but then in the sense of like if it's a choreography, and the good thing is everyone that I've worked with so far and everyone that who has partner work with me, the first thing we ask is, are you comfortable if we put doing this? Are you comfortable with this? Do you want to swap partners, or do you not want to do it at all? We have a different backup. Me personally, I always have like a backup choreography in case, the partnering just sometimes the two dancers do not vibe in that way.
Sure.
Like they're very good friends and everything's fine, but then they don't want to be like locking hands or hands around your waist, or there are intimate parts of it. There's specific types of dance that on like show choreography, tour choreography. Like recently in Carnival, JCA Entertainment was the set that I danced in as a dancer.
Okay.
The song was Boy Is Mine. It is, the song by Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
It's very unashamed in this desire
Yeah.
to showcase desire in this specific choreography. Justin, the choreographer, had like the girl wrap their hands around the guy like that.
Okay.
Every single partner, is this okay? Can I do it here? Where are you comfortable? What's your threshold?
Oh, how
Ask
different.
these questions, because it's, yes, we get it, it's the choreography, but to sell that choreography, also to make it look genuine,
Yes.
that chemistry, you have to try to make manufacture.
Yeah.
Like it's not forced, and
You can't force it. Yeah.
you can't force chemistry. That's going to be very difficult, and it's like pulling teeth. And especially when when you're the the theme is desire, right? There are many ways to show desire. Desire you never touch at all in the performance, but you have longing looks. And you never touch at all in the performance, but you have like certain movements where you're touching yourself and then looking at the other person. That's like giving signals, right? But in photography, that asks you to be involved with another dancer, whether it's the same sex, whether it's like opposite sex, whether it's like just an ensemble doing something that is to showcase desire, right? When you have moments where your hand needs to come into contact with another person's body, you always ask whether that's fine, because sometimes even for a stunt, it may not be about desire. Say someone has to climb over me and then stand on my shoulder, or if I have to walk over like different people and then stand there and do a pose, and you always be like, hey, this is okay, where can I hold you, is this fine? Because the stunt is not going to work if you don't trust the other person, right?
Trust. Yep.
My
Yep.
Desi audience, if you've seen Anybody Can Dance movies,
Yes.
the first one where there's a stunt where Chandu's character has to be the wall and then someone has to run and jump off of him.
Yeah.
That doesn't work until like the latter half of the movie, because there's no trust between the two dancers. That's
And you can probably
us.
tell.
Yeah, and you see United and people do like crazy stunts, but the bond that they have between each other is incredible, because I'm gonna jump, I trust you to be there to catch me, or I'm gonna jump, I trust you to be there to spot me. Like my team, we make sure that we always trust each other. We make sure that we put the right people in the right spots. In situations where you don't know people, right? When you just get put into this, like in the group, and you're cast for this, you as a person who is taking care of that part of that choreography, you have that one spot. You have that responsibility to be like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm your partner. I'm comfortable with XYZ. What are you comfortable with? This is asking me to say choke you for this choreography. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Are you bad?
Yeah.
Is it working with this? I mean, if you're not good with this, we can talk to the choreographer and figure something out.
And does
Or we can
happen?
make
Like, does the figuring out happen? Like, does the choreographer change?
I am going to say yes. Yeah, it does. In these specific instances, I was very lucky that, Justin always was like, hey, are we comfortable? If we're not comfortable, we can change it. Let me know. But yeah, you have to let them know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You can't.
Yeah.
And especially when, from a choreographer's perspective, I had choreographed a little Bollywood salsa thingy. And salsa, there's different ways to do it. There's not an intimate hold, there's a regular base hold, second hold, and a third hold is the most intimate, where you're closer. Choreography asked for the third hold. Two of the dancers were like, I don't feel very nice about it.
Yeah.
But one of them came up to me and said, I don't want to be that close to this dancer right now.
Sure.
It doesn't feel good. And she told me like, hey, it may change in a week. I said, I don't want you to test it out for a week and then tell me if you're comfortable for a week. That's putting yourself to hell mentally.
Yeah.
For a week.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to be that close to that person for many factors, I'm not going to have you do that. So I just simply changed it. The good thing about choreography is you can
Right.
change. And what makes you a good choreographer is the fact that you listen to what the music is saying, you listen to what the theme is saying, you also listen to your dancers, and you are observant about what's going on. And if something is not translating, then there's no merit in keeping it. You take it out. Same
You
way.
literally you're hitting the juice, when and I'm going to share this talk with so many intimacy coordinators that I know, specifically in India and in the US, who have no, I mean, they're all like learning, but like exactly what does it mean to actually do intimacy coordination? Even as Harini is a profession, OTT, Netflix, Amazon, all these profession people are now like waking up to intimacy coordination, which is lovely. But we just think that, oh, it's about consent. It's not just about consent. Like what you just labeled is the dynamics of comfort and trust, rupture and repair, and then like to co-create a beautiful outcome, like so that everyone's feeling like they're part of it, right? Like it's not like happening by force and sexism and all that, right? Like that's a very different way of producing art, actually.
Yeah, and then to tie that back to the base of your question was like, does touch, is that prevalent? It is very prevalent, right?
Helpful.
Sometimes, let's say it's not choreography. Let's say it's a battle.
Yeah.
You can get close to your opponent. I'm a novice in battling, I will say that, but I've noticed this because I'm studying it, I'm watching, and I've asked questions from different people who are like battlers or they battle. That's their thing. You cannot touch your opponent because you're in a heightened emotion sense. Don't do
Okay.
it. And if something happens, you either learn how to play it off or that can go really wrong, right?
Right.
Like you can't all up in someone's face when you're battling unless that's like your angle, and then the other battler also understands that this is where it's coming from. Because really, it's a replacement for what? Getting your emotions out
Yeah.
in your fight. You're using dance as a weapon there. You're using dance as a conversation there. You're using dance as many, many different things. So when you're using touch, you can signal that as a stay back. You can signal that as a come close. You can signal this as an I'm okay. You can signal this as get off of me. This can mean many things. It can just be like a 5, 6, 7, 8 to showcase that it's like a texture. This can mean come close. Like there's different ways to do this.
Right, right,
But
right, right.
when you're actively using your hands, your feet, your neck, there are weird things you can do with your body. You have to make sure that you're in synergy with the other body that you're done. Other bodies, your own. There'll be days when you can walk into rehearsal and just simply not feel like you're piloting your own body.
Yes.
And on that day, if you're asking for touch, if you're asking to touch the other body, if you're asking to work in a choreographic sense that you need to be intertwined with something and you're just simply not feeling it, you have to let them know, being like, not the day. But what do you do when that's not an option? You got to breathe, and you have to make sure that that trust is first there with your other person, your partner, and be like, hey, I'll be very honest. You might have to do half the carrying for me today. Give me your energy. I'll feed off of it. I can try. But some days your body is just not going to be there, and that's fine. But then the cardinal rule of anything in any performance is to establish a good rapport with the other person. I'm not saying become their best friend in a day. I'm
No,
saying
it's
respect.
unreal. Right, right,
Respect,
right.
trust, and just lay out your boundaries, but not as a hard stop. It'd be like, hey, this is like what I'm comfortable, what I'm not comfortable with. There's a very different way of using the word boundaries these days. We've spoken about this.
We have.
Boundaries are not like to cut something off. In this sense, it's to make sure that you just show your vulnerability to the other person. Be like, hey, I'm really not comfortable with like your hand going up on this side of my neck specifically. Try to avoid that.
But for
Right?
that, I have to know
Yeah.
myself. To know myself, I have to start my inner work journey. And for to start my inner work journey, I have to like.
Circle, right? So it always starts that. So that's why I'm kind of bringing you back. When you're in a space where you have no choice but to amplify
That's so
your,
helpful.
your body, I'm going to keep saying this. You need to know yourself well enough to say yes or no to certain projects. You also need to know the other person relatively well enough to gauge whether or not you can fully trust this person to go ahead with something, right? So there's what's going to happen here if you don't have one key thing, communication.
Yeah,
It's not going to.
it's gonna break down. That is so helpful. I'm literally going to share this with so many of my clients, dancer clients, of course, but also students, like also intimacy coordinators who just this is missing. This knowledge is missing. The verbal knowledge is missing. We know the words, but we don't actually know how it plays out. So I'm so grateful to you, Harini, for just like doing so much labor, even in this conversation, to explain it so succinctly. Actually, it's very clear, and I can see from like the hearts, and we've been getting feedback. It's very clear. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any leaving thoughts around like why someone should pick up a book like an Unashamed? And I'm not asking you to endorse it, or I'm just saying like why should someone do inner work? Like what would you like to tell people?
I mean, one, I have to really, really hats off to you for this, because it is, I don't know, it's sad that topics like this become pseudo taboo in our culture, right? We come from a very sex positive culture. We've got years of literature, temples, engravings to talk about this. We were never a negative.
Cancel. You're going to be cancelled for saying that we come from a sex positive culture. No, I'm with you. I agree. It's just so sad that people don't actually know that.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
I would say this. I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer. Bharatanatyam stems from Sadharatam, right? When you think about the roots of what I'm doing right now, you may know it as a religious dance form, but that's only after the Reformation and the Bhakti movement and years of trauma and pain inflicted on top of this dance. This dance was never one-dimensional. This dance was a sensual one. The people doing this spoke about everything and anything, and they expressed everything, and they were beautiful doing it. The roots of the dances that we do today and the roots of this sanskari stuff that we do today, right? You can't eradicate the fact that we have one major thing missing. We have a whole sage named Vatsyayana
Yeah.
who wrote a very, very big book that is
Yes.
aligned to only be like, it's about sex position. Yeah,
Yes.
it's health, but it also talks about sexual health. It also talks about what to eat, what not to eat.
Dance,
It
music,
it talks
food.
about how to create mood,
Yes.
how to navigate relationships, how to navigate just in general, how to use your body, touch with different types of touch. The Sanskrit channel has a good breakdown on it if you want something that's unbiased. Plug. And your book talks about these things, and your book is literally a journey in the what, where, when, how. Do the work, right?
Yeah.
Why should someone pick up a book like this, or even like a basic shadow work book, or maybe a Jungian theory book? If you don't do that work, it's going to get really hard for you to navigate biases that have been fed into you since birth, because something as natural as desire, something as natural as wanting something, or something as natural as not wanting something everyone else wants, right? Like
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
that is just something that has been shoved into this box, that has been wrapped with a chain, that has been wrapped with a padlock, and you have to find different ways to open this. And by the time you get to the core of it, it might be too late. Because you're always going to have puppy love. You're going to have some crushes. You're going to look at your body and you're going to feel awkward about it when you turn 13. You're like, I don't like how I look. Some of my students come up to me and like, I don't like the way I look when I dance. You're 12 and 13. Right now, you're not going to like much of anything.
Yeah.
Right? 14, 15, and then you'll start loving everything. And then 16, 17, you think that you're on top of the world. And 18, 19, 20, you're like, I really don't know anything. And then 21, you're back to, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. So that's a cycle. And we're all allowed to go through that cycle. We all go through that cycle, which is different spices. Maybe you get up one day and you be like, I really hate human touch. But you can't talk to someone about that who really craves human touch. Why would you do that? It doesn't work for you.
Oh, why? That's the thing. The why needs to be clear for you.
But then the thing is, if you can't talk to somebody about, and if you don't have that access to communication, books like this is what's going to help, right? This is written. It is a silent friend that you can talk to and you read about. So if you have something, I wish I had this growing up, I would have actually felt a lot more comfortable to getting to the point where I am right now. I'm still young, 25 ain't all that, but 25 is where I'm comfortable now. I wasn't comfortable at 18. I wish I was, but I wasn't. So I would say that, hey, if you have access to, and if you're doing such great work, giving everyone access to these topics at a young age, so they can start undoing, decolonizing their minds about these biases that have unfortunately stemmed from systems to oppress, systems to subjugate, right?
Yeah,
People
that's right.
in old British Regency used to read these books or the Counselor in secret, because having a sex life as a woman was a mind-blowing concept back then.
Yeah.
Whereas we've got stories, we have literal actual monuments talking about, something as simple and banal as two people had a very steamy night, and then that led to a series of consequences.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens. And why? And then if you don't have access to this information, if you don't ask these questions or can't ask these questions to very regressive family members in some cases, or if you're not being taught sex ed in school,
Which we're
then
not.
you end up turning to things that don't exactly showcase safe sex practices. Then you turn to porn, you turn to bad porn, then you turn to like reading things, and then you turn to locker room talk. Then you go down a bad slope of exactly what not to do with another person's body, or your own body for that sake, right? Then you start
Exactly. And sorry, just to the point of the information, there is so much information out there, but there is not an inner guidance to be able to, like you said, a silent friend, a loving parent, a good therapist. These are privileges. Like every family doesn't have access to this, right? As you're saying. So what can someone do? Well, people are like, oh, there's a lot of sex positive talk online. Yes, and it's just online. Like it's there. There's information. But
online
there's not
online
work. Inner work is
every
different.
right, there's both sides online. You have sex positive therapists, and you have like toxic positivity as a two-pronged approach. Then you have that thing that counteracts everything. You have like the no abstinence only, not be doing this. And then you see, along with sex positivity, you see pregnancies, along with like the teen pregnancy, you see like a bad welfare system for people who enter this. You see pro-life, you see pro-choice, you see everything.
You see everything, and you may not even exactly. Seeing a sex positive therapist doesn't mean I become sex positive. That's the thing. Like the inner work is such an important aspect, which is very hard to even define. But you did such a great job, like actually laying it out for us.
So you have these questions, right? Arjun's going to be like, why do you say this? But anyway, my brother, when he turned of age, and then you asked me these questions, I am not equipped to tell you simply because I'm a woman. But I'm glad you came to me with this, even though it's so awkward to see your younger brother come up and be like, oh no, I don't want to answer this. But I have that open communication, right? And if he didn't have me, he could go to dad, but I know that my younger brother would rather eat a nail before he actually asks my dad any questions like this out of pure awkwardness.
Sure,
like that's your parent.
Which is
That's
natural.
your parent. Like,
that's natural.
Kind of, it's like going to a very senior, great religious authority figure and asking questions. You'd be like, oh no, that's just straight up crazy, right?
Or going to a postdoc and asking like, how do I do my masters? I mean, it's a totally different.
You're not going to go to Pornhub and be like, how do I practice safe sex? Really? So let's talk about this, right? So you can.
How do I go through a breakup? How do I actually do? What's a trauma response? How do I like heal from a freeze? Like,
yes,
all of
so these questions, if you read about them in a very unbiased, open manner, right? Remember that column that we used to have in Times of India, kind of like that. Sometimes the questions would be downright hilarious, but then you got a serious answer. Like there's no such thing as a idiotic question. But then you have questions. I had questions growing up, and I had to open my mind up and then finally read a lot of these books to get out of it. Because I have family members who would be very upset that I'm talking about this right now, like extended family members. But that's their upbringing, that's their thing, their opinion.
Talking about Dr. Vatsa, the columnist, the Times of India columnist, the person who passed away, the very senior sexologist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Them, or just like, just asking questions about sexual health and sexual being and well-being. I still remember when talking about any of that was taboo. And I'm talking, that was
Oh,
5 years.
5 years.
Wow, thanks, Apple. But when you're thinking about it now we have all of the open resources to be able to be.
And it's still only the urban elite, then the urban middle class, then the lower income. It's all going, like, of course people have resources, but our resources very much in English, especially in India. Also in the US, we need more Spanish, more like just more resources. That
Yeah.
will take 10 years.
And then also we did the whole thing in English right now, but if we had like a way to translate it into as many languages as possible, I don't know, that would have been great. So yeah, long-winded answer to why someone needs to pick up a book like that is you have questions and you won't get answers all the time out there in your immediate circles. And there is the internet, but the internet is overwhelming. Frankly speaking, there's like way too many. You will never know what answer is what you're looking for. Maybe you learn something. Maybe it's not something you can actively use. Maybe it's something that you want to use, you're using wrong. How do you know this? You're going to try to work on it. And if you have a book that lets you work on it in your comfort of your own home with a pen, paper, and I think that's step one in working on this first. Then you can put that energy outward.
Yeah.
Because the time you take to heal your inner energy,
yeah,
it'll help a lot.
Yeah.
Because then it helps you give out that good energy to other people. Then they know that the person that they're talking to is unshakable. Right? And I'm not saying invincible. I'm saying unshakable.
Yes. No, we're aligned on this. Exactly. I think this is
Yeah.
where existence brought us together all those years ago in that lunch break room. But otherwise, just like a person that shared class and everything, but amazing. I'm so happy that we're so aligned in the ways in which we're looking at survivorship too, because not everyone does, and that's fine. But there is a specific frequency here that's aligning, and it's so helpful, Harini. I cannot tell you again and again. I'm going to share this so much.
Thank you. Yeah. And hey, I just like to not shame anyone who has a different way of navigating
Yes.
something. I'm just sharing what happened to me and how I came out of it, right? So I am a different person. I am one person. This is one person's story you're listening to. Maybe the next person you go on live, they're going to be markedly different from how I navigated things. And that's fine. That's what makes us human. Give grace to the fact that not everyone is going to be the same. And that's what I'm trying to implore. And that's why I've noticed in your comment section, in my comment section, any comment section on social media per se, people are very quick to jump to a conclusion and not really understand that, hey, there's like
It's
many
one.
factors you cannot
Yeah.
see, right? So I'm not going to be like, hey, you can't journal. For me, journaling doesn't work. I cannot sit down and write my thoughts out. It doesn't work for me.
Not you.
But for some people, like my roommate, journaling works beautifully for her. She would journal for hours and hours and hours and come out feeling great for it.
Right. No,
Like
there are
my
many
friend,
ways, exactly. We're all different and we're supposed to be different.
yeah, and I love yapping about my problems. I love talking about it. If something comes up, I'll sit down and have like an hour-long conversation. You know this. I love talking. I've talked a lot right now. But I have a couple friends who are just like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk so much about this. I mean, I can talk about it, but in bursts. Or maybe when I feel like it. Why do you want to start a conversation now? Like that's also valid. That's valid. That's fair. That's allowed. And we're allowed to be different. We are allowed to have different ways of navigating things. So if there's one takeaway to get from this long session, anyone watching, it's okay to not agree with me today. It is okay to not agree with my methods. I'm saying this is how I got out of it, and this is what I used. And if you feel like this is something that can help you, by all means. And if you've seen any of Neha's lives and if you've seen her posts, please get her book, because then there's something for everybody in that book. There's something for everybody in that book. Not everyone is going to have the same cookie cutter story. Like the X happened to me, Y is my journey, Z is the outcome. It's never like that. It's not math. Even math, there are several ways to
So
get
many
to this.
ways. Yes. Yes, deep math and deep thought and deep anything deeper than the surface is multidimensional. Yes.
That's my
Thank
only.
you so much. Yes, that's so astute. That's so profound. That's so wise. And it's so healing, actually. I didn't expect us to give a kind of a healing session. And it really is that. I think it ended up being like that. And for me to hear your words were also very healing and therapeutic to know, like, okay, great, there's so much alignment here. And this is how it manifests in someone else who I've seen, I've seen your
You've
journey.
seen me, yeah. You've seen me at the lowest, and you've seen me make those multiple. You've seen me come out of it. You saw. So, yeah, she didn't arbitrarily call me on this.
No,
Yeah?
no,
We've got
this is all.
years. We've got
Yes,
years.
yes, and there's like destiny and mystical
She has
aspects
seen
also.
me grown up. I'll say that because I was what, sophomore year, 18, turning on 19. I was
That's right.
19 when she saw me go through this.
Thank you so much, Harini, and like amazing work also. Like, I'm just gonna keep giving you a shout out. I hope that your work reaches so many places, like so many hearts. I hope it helps not just give inspiration to younger people or older people or whoever's a dancer, but also teaches people how to think critically about what they're doing and how to be like a multidimensional person. There are many dancers, there are many creators, which is fine, no shade at them. But there are very, very unique people who can hold two to three things, contradictory ideas at once and make sense of it. That is maturity, that is wisdom, for at least for the way I see it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. And yeah, stay in touch. Hope that your book actually gets a lot more range than it's doing. You've done such great work. Thank you so much. And yeah, if let me know whenever you want to catch up. I would love to sit down and just like talk. I love talking.
That's lovely. It's very helpful. Thank you. Have a lovely Sunday.
You too. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye, Harini. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for the love and the kisses, and see you soon. And sorry, is there any place they can find you, or is there something I
Oh
should do?
yeah. Uh, Nah, they can find me on here, Instagram. I just share my artwork and in rare cases I'll share like my thoughts on here and there, but hit me up on the DM if you want to ask me a question like this. I've done some work with some other dance therapists who are going like that, but my platforms are looking how my brain's going. So you'll see where I am in my practices. My goal right now is to just expand on this movement vocabulary. I want to see just how intertwined everything is. I'm looking more of similarities in fragmented dance rather than the differences in dances and see if I can tie those two things together. So if you're interested in what I do, you can find me here on Instagram.
Yes, please. And Harini, are you coming to India
Yeah.
with your work?
Yes, I'll be coming to India August, September, something like that. But currently in a visa process for O1, so I'll let you know.
Please do. If there's a workshop, anything I can promote or I can, of course, be at, I would love to. And let's do more. That would be amazing.
Let's do more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye, Harini. Bye. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I do not want to take questions. The comments off. I'm not sure. No, the comments are on. Yeah, they're on. Okay. Bye, everyone.